Everybody, and welcome to the Positively Disney podcast. I'm Kimberly Bouchard, your host and the author of the Positively Disney book series. I am really excited about tonight's show because we are going to be talking about one of my favorite go-to attractions, the Haunted Mansion. And I don't know about you guys, but I always have like Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean are my two go-to attractions in whatever park I'm at. And so I'm really excited about talking a little bit about that and interviewing a very special guest. Before I go on, I want to welcome Kelly and Michael to the show and my Twitch TV people and anybody else out there on Facebook watching me this evening. I also want to thank my sponsor, Michelle McCune over at Ears of Experience. You can reach her at MMCKEOWN at themouseexperts.com, and she will put together a fantastic vacation for you. She sends you out a really awesome package tailored to your family, and she's got texting privileges with you while you are on your vacation. So I'm very happy to have Michelle with me as well. So a couple of weeks ago, I ended up going to Disneyland very last minute for a couple of nights. And I was itching to show you guys this on the last show, but I thought, well, I'll just wait for the Haunted Mansion show. And this is something that I picked up that was so fun because in keeping with our theme of Haunted Mansion, I want to share this. So I got this is the ghost of Gus. And of course, this one of the three hitchhiking ghosts. And on his tombstone, it says, good old Gus hitchhiking because he missed his bus. And this is kind of neat because it actually, you can hold food. It was meant to be a food storage container. So that was the first one, and it lights up. It actually attaches to the other two hitchhiking ghosts. I want to share those with you because I just thought they were so fun. And I thought I've got to get these because they're so neat. So this is our Ezra ghost, and it's actually a sippy cup. And on his tombstone, it's dearly departed Ezra Bean, unluckiest hitchhiker we've ever seen. So that's kind of the Ezra. He also lights up and he attaches to Gus. And then the other one that was a little bit more difficult to find, but I got him, is our lovely Phineas. And Phineas is actually a popcorn holder. And his tombstone goes, Professor Phineas Plump, his travel plans have hit a bump. And it's so fun because you can just put popcorn or whatever else you want to put in there. So I just want to share that with you. And he is the one that actually makes the music and the song, The Grim Grinning Ghost. And we're going to talk about that a little bit after our guest has, we've had our guest on. So welcome to my husband who is watching from Melbourne, Australia tonight, and welcome Stan from Winnipeg, Canada. Thanks for joining me, you guys. So as I said, Haunted Mansion is one of my favorites, and I've been on three different Haunted Mansion three different attractions in the world. So, funnily enough, they are different, and there's actually one Disneyland that does not have the attraction. So, in Haunted Mansion in Disneyland is located in New Orleans Square. The Haunted Mansion in Walt Disney World is located at Liberty Square. In Tokyo Disneyland, the Haunted Mansion is actually located in Fantasyland. And in Disneyland Paris, which is the third one I had gone to, is it located in Frontierland, and it's actually called the Phantom Manor. In Hong Kong Disneyland, it's called Mystic Manor, and it's located at Mystic Point. And believe it or not, there is no Haunted Mansion in Shanghai Disney. And the reason for that is because of the cultural beliefs of their dearly departed. They do believe that their loved ones do come back, and it would have been shown as a sign of disrespect, believe it or not. Stan Solo just mentioned that he has a bit of a collection of popcorn buckets, and I think that is wonderful. I know that there's a lot of really cool popcorn buckets out there. There's the Oogie Boogie one, and just all kinds of really beautiful designed popcorn buckets. But at any rate, um, Something about the Haunted Mansion as well. You know those guys that are to the right of you? They're sort of the busts there. They call them the singing statuaries. Well, the guy that actually has the real low baritone voice is the voice of Thurl Ravenscroft. That, believe it or not, he sings the song "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." He is the same voice. And back in the day, I mean, even today, voice voice actors get around in the sense that they have usually several voices, especially character voice actors. And so just like today's voice actors that do different parts in different fields, whether it be Marvel or cartoons or whatever, you had those back then too. So, and I always loved those special busts. um, I just also wanted to tell you that many of the Imagineers that worked on Haunted Mansion got their own tombstone, which is, I think, really, really fun. Um, Stan Solo was telling me that he believes that Thurl also has one of the voices of the Tiki Birds. I believe. I wouldn't doubt it. Because once you're part of that Disney company, that family, you're kind of, in different places, right? Now, something that you may or may not know is the Haunted Mansion. Actually, the concept, it was built from 1962 to 1963, but it didn't open till August 9th, 1969. And the reason for this is severalfold. They actually decided to work on the World's Fair stuff, so they had to get that out. I think it was like 1964 World's Fair. I mean, I wasn't old enough or anywhere near being able to go, but that was the important thing for the Disney Imagineers to concentrate on. But then Walt passed away. And so it was left up to the Imagineers to figure out what direction this should take, this building, this Haunted Mansion should take. And that's originally Walt had been thinking that it should be a walk-through museum with a variety of things and that. But the Imagineers, with putting their heads together, decided to make it to what it is today. And of course, there's been a few variations on things. Mark Davis, Tony Baxter, a lot of those guys, Bob Gurr, were really involved in creating the Haunted Mansion. And believe it or not, the actual Haunted Mansion was taken from a house called the Shipley Lydecker House in Baltimore that was built in 1803. And it's actually, I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was I would suspect it would be, because it'd probably be a heritage site now. But it was at, if anybody's near Baltimore, you can check it out, 2550 McHenry Street in Baltimore. And that Haunted Mansion in today's dollar cost $45 million. So that's kind of an incredible amount of money for an attraction. Of course, it cost $7 million back in the day, but it came in at $45 million. So I don't know about you guys if you like the Haunted Mansion or not, but I just want to welcome Donna and Bernie. Bernie, it was nice to see you last night. We'll have to go for coffee soon. Bernie it's so funny how we met. So she's actually a parishioner for my church. And we were sitting at the Fort Wilderness boat ramp launch there a few years ago. And this family walked by. We looked at it, we thought, you guys look familiar. And then we met. We met at Walt Disney World while they were coming off the boat, and we were waiting to go on it. It was so funny. And so I just actually saw her last night again. So it's really funny how you meet different people, and all that. But we're going to get our special guest on. Our guest is Dr. Jay Sharp, actually. And he is going to talk to us about a very special thing that happened to him, getting his own tombstone. And I'd heard about him several years ago, and he's going to talk to us about his story. So we're going to just see. Hi, Jay. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Kim, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm so glad you're on the show tonight. I really am. And taking the time out of your crazy busy schedule is great.
Oh, glad to do it.
So, Jay, I didn't tell the audience too much, but you won an auction to have your own tombstone at the Haunted Mansion of all things. When and how did you find out about that?
Well, a long time ago. Actually, I guess it was about 2014. Uh, a friend of mine with work had knew of, was down in Florida a lot with work to begin with, and generally down there, be spending our time over at the Disney World property. But anyway, they kind of as a little teaser or little joke, they sent me this notice about the auction that was going on. Obviously, it wasn't Disney World, but it was Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it started with a friend from work sending that to me, and I started kind of I the next day I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, that actually would be a pretty good thing to just put a bid on it initially as a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a joke to them, and anyway, it went all the way through, and ended up with the tombstone there. So,
Yeah. So what does the tombstone say? And did you have any part of what the epitaph it was, or did they just create it?
uh, so uh, so the tombstone itself, it says J. Doctor, lawyer, legal clerk, forever buried in his work. And actually, so I didn't have any choice in what it said. Actually, one of the Imagineers called and we spoke probably for about 20, 30 minutes. And they asked a whole bunch of questions. And that's basically what they created, which was actually a fair representation with the way things were. So,
Right. I think that's so brilliant because they try to make fun of the fact, of whatever it is you're doing, in your life, right?
correct, yeah.
Yeah. And so Jay, I know that auction piece went for a pretty price. I think it was like over $37,000, which most of us couldn't do that. I'm just wondering, where did all the proceeds go from the auction? Like, what was the purpose behind raising that money?
So, actually, I, I guess it was kind of it's, first they had ever done an auction to the public, and so they had picked the cause to be the Boys and Girls Club of, and split between the chapters in Anaheim and actually the Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So they split it between the Anaheim, and then there was Winter's hometown where they did the other
Jay, I just
half
have to
of it.
interrupt. You're sort of breaking up a little bit, and I'm not too sure what's happening.
Uh, hold on one second. Let me I'm
Yeah,
try something.
we're losing actually some
Hold
audio.
on one second.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Stan, that would be the coolest thing ever, wouldn't it? I think it's amazing, really, to be able to have something of your own right in the park like that. It's kind of
Hey,
hi, yeah.
Tim, I'm back, and hopefully it's better.
Yeah, it is a little bit better. So, yeah, if you could just tell us a little bit. So, where did the proceeds go? I think it got split between something. I'm not too sure again what you had said.
Yeah, they had picked the Boys and Girls Club as the designated recipient, and what they
Okay.
did was it was going to be split between half of it going to Anaheim, the Anaheim chapter, and the other
Okay.
half going to the Winners hometown, which for me was Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Baton Rouge. Okay, Boys and Girls Club. Oh, that's so nice. Very good. I'm sure they did an awful lot with those proceeds. I think that's really wonderful. Gosh.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah. So now, I mean, they didn't just call you and tell you that you won, obviously. I think there was more to it. Like, how did it go after that? Like, once you won it, how did they present the tombstone to you?
So with the auction, actually they had an elaborate plan for the I guess from the start they were going to do basically a midnight burial ceremony. So actually, you know, after, I guess actually kind of the day before I got in a call, they were just verifying that the bids were, you know, basically
Legitimate.
legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, good way to
Yeah.
put it, legitimate.
Yeah.
And then actually, and then right after the bid closed, a few minutes after that, get a call from them, and basically it was moving pretty quickly. I guess it was, within a week or two of
Mhm.
the auction closing. Um, they basically they flew. Basically, I happened to already be out in the California area
Mhm.
for another issue that was going on out there,
Mhm.
and then they flew two of my family members out there, and then basically the yeah, basically they set up. Basically, I think it was a 2 night stay over at one of the properties over there,
Mhm.
and then basically had dinner over at the Napa Rose, which is a fantastic restaurant, and then made it back to the hotel. And shortly before midnight, or probably actually a little bit before midnight, one of the Disneyland representatives met us over at the hotel and walked us over back over to Disneyland to the gates.
Mhm.
And as we're approaching it, basically you're just hearing the Haunted Mansion music playing all
Oh.
over the place. It's basically on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
So, went through, and this is well after the park's closed.
Mhm.
So no other guests or anything. Basically, kind of uh, placed on a horse-drawn carriage, and then basically we took a ride down Main Street going towards it's a Small World property. It's
Mhm.
a Small World,
Mhm.
and then headed back over towards the Haunted Mansion,
Hmm.
where they basically had a pretty elaborate uh, ceremony set up. So it was, as we're approaching it, you can see the whole Haunted Mansion is all lit up,
Oh,
and
wow.
then the hitchhiking goats out there, and a caretaker who was acting as the master of burial ceremonies there,
Okay.
and I think the bride was there as
Mhm.
well. But
Mhm.
so it was, for basically it was myself and then my fiance, soon to be wife. We were married a few months later and everything.
Yeah.
That was all of the plans, and actually, they actually allowed my mom to come out there too, so
Oh,
she got to see
fun.
it as well.
That's fun. And now they actually gave you like a death certificate or something like that? I think. Did they or
They did. So
that'd be
they got
strange.
all out, created this death certificate, and part of it was, they had me go up and read it, which was a little odd reading my own death certificate. But
Yeah.
so right after that, they basically unveiled the actual tombstone that was outside for the actual ceremony itself.
Mhm.
And the ceremony is real small. It was,
Mhm.
the characters, my family, the three of us, um, and then a couple other Disney representatives there, and then so they basically unveiled the tombstone, which that was the first time I was seeing an epitaph. So that seeing that actually caught me off guard because I was like, wow, that's
Pretty
pretty
accurate.
pretty accurate there.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. And now the tombstone is still there, right? Somewhere?
So it is still in the Haunted Mansion there. So it's actually, yes, I was out there a few weeks ago, and I rarely get out there, but anyway, and generally when we're out there, it's usually closed for the holiday Nightmare Before Christmas overlay. But anyway, happened to be out there a couple weeks ago, and I had a chance to see it.
Okay. And can you tell our audience where they can see it while they're in the attraction?
So as you're going into the graveyard, you've got the caretaker and the near skeleton dog
Mhm.
on the right side,
Mhm.
and then the dune buggy rotates to the left,
Mhm.
and you've got the minstrel ghost on top of a series of tombstones right there,
Mhm.
and it's one of the tombstones immediately right after the minstrel ghosts that
Okay.
and it's right up against the track. So it's not lit up, so you can't you have to know exactly where you're looking to
Okay.
see it.
Okay.
And so, but it's generally you can kind of catch a little bit of ambient light and at least make out the J part
Okay.
of it.
Well, that's so fun because now anybody riding that attraction at Disneyland and hearing this podcast will be on the lookout that they actually talked to or heard the person whose tombstone is in there. I think that's
uh,
hilarious. Oh my gosh. So Jay, so you had that now they put a tombstone in there. Now, did you get I know like in competitions for dancing or whatever, you have a perpetual cup that remains with others and then you get something of your own. Did you get an actual tombstone as well or did it just stay in the graveyard there?
so they made a little miniature copy of it. It's probably about 18 inches tall. It's a little
Okay.
miniature version of it, which they sent that to me after the ceremony. So that was, always we'll always have that.
Oh. Oh my goodness. So what did your friends have to say about your acquisition, especially the ones I guess that sent you the information about it?
Well, so they got a good laugh about it, and actually for the first few years it was always the running thing. But they were shocked at some of the details, but they overall they weren't surprised and everything
Uh-huh.
with the overall thing. So, and still, some friends these days and everything, they bring it up, and on occasion, I get someone that happens to find out about it. So
Right.
it's always a good little conversation, uh, brief, a brief conversation, but it's
Yeah.
a yeah.
That's so great. Well, especially when I tracked you down and some people knew about it and other people didn't. And I know that they were kind of surprised and curious all at the same time about what that was all about. I just want to ask something about the ceremony. So how long did the ceremony go on for? And did you actually walk out of there or did you take the horse-drawn buggy again or
You know what? We so the ceremony, the whole thing was probably maybe 40, 45 minutes. I mean,
oh
literally
wow.
from the time we entered the gates
Yeah.
with the you know the carriage ride, and
Yeah.
then made it over to the haunted mansion, and then the ceremony itself was 5, 10 minutes
Yeah.
max,
Yeah.
and there was basically as soon as they unveiled it, then they basically had to go install it into the attraction. So it
Oh.
was about a 15-minute downtime, and they had some pretty cool little desserts there, all
Oh.
haunted mansion themed.
Yeah.
Which actually it was Halloween time as well, so they had planned all this to coincide
Mm.
around that time.
Mhm.
So anyway, and then after that, they basically took us on the haunted mansion.
Oh.
Um, so had an opportunity to ride it and actually see it installed in its place. And
Oh,
at that
cool.
time, they had it well lit up for the
Right.
installation because yeah. So the odd thing was, as we got onto the dune buggy,
Yeah.
the attraction was actually stopped,
Oh.
and they had a designated dune buggy for us to ride in because they had attached a couple of cameras to it, kind of looking,
Oh,
basically
yeah.
looking from our response
Oh,
to it.
yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, fortunately, I've never seen that video or anything, so, and
Oh.
hopefully they keep it quiet.
Oh.
So,
Now everybody's gonna be looking and searching on the internet, for that video, right?
oh yeah,
Now
yeah.
and now was everything still dark? Like they kept the Haunted Mansion dark inside still, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Everything else about the haunted mansion was the same, with the exception of right where the tombstone was.
Yeah.
They did have an actual light on that
Okay.
there, and
Okay.
the as the dune buggy came up to it, they slowed it down so I could you
Gotcha.
look at it and see what was going on with it, and
Yeah.
so
So
anyway, I
where
had a chance to go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, where was the ceremony held? Like, was it in the grounds, or was it just outside, or Where was it?
Oh, so it was out and it was in front of the carriage that's on the outside. So right before you
Oh,
go into the Haunted Mansion, where
cool.
that carriage is,
Yeah.
um, they basically had to say, it was probably about actually it was probably about 5 or 6 chairs there. That was
Okay.
about it, and then the characters and everything. So it was
Fun.
it was small scale. It was fun, and then afterwards. They were nice enough to give us a ride back to the hotel in
Oh,
basically we got escorted backstage and they gave us a
oh,
ride back
okay.
to the hotel.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that must have been like after 1 in the morning, probably, right? By the time everything
Yeah,
was,
it was it
yeah.
right. It was close. It was approaching 1 in the morning at that
Yeah.
point.
Okay, that's so fun. Did you get a chance to take photos with the hitchhiking ghost and the caretaker and all that at all?
You, so we actually did, and those pictures I have no idea where they are. Just over the years, kind of moves and everything has happened.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll resurface. There's actually a few of them that Disney had taken
Mm.
and sent to me, so I do actually have those. And actually, I think those were actually released to the media outlets. So on occasion, I'll kind of see one pop up. Someone will send to me, and I'm like, yeah, that was from that event.
Oh
So.
yeah. Oh, that's so fun. I was just curious. Have you always been a haunted mansion fan?
So you know what? I've always liked it. I guess well, whenever I was probably 8, that was my first trip to ever go out to Disney World, and that
Mm.
would be the first time I really would have remembered anything about Disney. And
Hmm.
but the Haunted Mansion, I just liked it as a kid. The Haunted Mansion theme stuff, and growing up, haunted houses were always a cool thing. But I could
Mm.
remember, riding the Haunted Mansion over at Disney World.
Hmm.
And so, when this auction came up and everything, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I definitely like it. It's Disney.
Hmm.
Disney always does a great job.
Yeah.
They seem to do a great job with most everything they tackle.
Yeah.
It's always a good time. It's
Hmm.
definitely family oriented. So, I wasn't a rabid fan, but I
Hmm.
definitely like it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Oh, that's great.
um, yeah,
I think
definitely
that's
enjoyed it.
yeah, I think that's so neat. What other attractions, just out of curiosity, do you kind of gravitate towards at the parks?
Um, so I, what, Big Thunder Mountain it would be one of my favorite roller coasters with Disney.
Hmm.
Um, and Big Thunder Mountain I've always liked.
Hmm.
And then we've got a young daughter, so she's been going to Disney since she was probably about 4 or 5 months old, and
Oh.
we tend to go. We tend to go several times a year because we're out in the Florida area with several things going
Okay.
on a yearly basis. So anyway, but Peter Pan, Peter Pan's always a good,
Yeah.
really fun escape there.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
out at Disneyland, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, that
Mm.
was always, um, the first time I got to ride it. Well, actually, yeah, it used to be out at Disney World too.
Yeah.
So I always did like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Sad
Yeah.
to see it close at Disney World, but still
Yeah.
enjoy it over at Disneyland.
Yeah. A lot of people were pretty upset about that closure. I think some of them even picketed about it or something like that. But no, that's so good. That's so fun that that you brought your daughter so young, because we started bringing our kids, our oldest when she was 14 months old, and I was expecting our second child, and then I was expecting our third child. We actually had three in strollers at one point. But you know what? When the parents love it, you're going to just go, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
real easy to go, especially
Yeah.
when everybody's on board with doing it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
exactly. Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That I just thought it was just so fun to find out about this, and again, thank you so much for your time, because I know you're a busy guy. And if you guys, heard his epitaph, can you just say the epitaph again, Jay, for us, because I don't know it off by heart. It's
Oh, sure. It's Jay. doctor, lawyer, legal clerk, forever buried in his work.
Yeah. So, guys, for you audience that are listening, that is pretty much Jay's life. He does all of that and more, and a dad on top of that. But anyways, I think it's just really cool. Something that you have that will always be a great memory of your time at the Haunted Mansion. But thank you again, Jay, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, I just want to welcome Stephen and Melissa who joined us. You can also listen to the interview on the playback, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Haunted Mansion because I really do love the Haunted Mansion. There's some people out there that I know that actually, they have the wallpaper of the Haunted Mansion. They go all out to bring some of that into their house. But that tiny little bride who says hurry back, at the end, that actually they she was known is known as Little Leota Toombs. Yes, Toombs was her name. Thomas was her married name. Was actually also the person, the woman in the hovering crystal ball. Same kind of woman, but the and the voice of her, or her facial expressions, also got carried over to her daughter named Kim, who also filled in for her mom when her mom was no longer with us. But something about the tiny little bride. Uh, the tiny bride, the story was that she got locked in a trunk on her wedding night, and escaped that only in death, but her large beating heart is still heard and still seen. So that's kind of the story behind that. But little Leota, or the real Leota Toombs Thomas, was actually an Imagineer with Walt Disney Imagineering. Back in the day, it was called WED. And something that is kind of fun to know is that, well, the 100 or so audio animatronics in the Haunted Mansion, they are kept very fresh in the sense that they're checked regularly. And to make sure that they do not look that healthy or in good health, they actually apply regularly witch hazel, translucent powder, and vanishing cream, because they're trying to keep, with the whole thing. They don't want, this healthy ghost. There you go. Another thing that I always wondered, you guys, I don't know if you wondered this, but when you are in the stretch room, I always wondered, gosh, am I actually moving anywhere? Am I going up? Am I going down? What's the story on that? So in California, because there's so little land to deal with, you actually are in an elevator and you go down into it. And then of course the stretch room opens and then you go on your dune buggy. But in Walt Disney World, because there is so much land, it gives you the illusion that you are on an elevator in the stretch room, but you actually aren't. You stay at the same level because they have so much land, and it's just the attraction is behind that stretch elevator. Also, I had mentioned it on, I don't know, a few shows ago, about an Imagineer that actually got inspired by that very stretch room in Walt Disney World. He was out there with his wife and her family, and it had just gotten the refurbishment. And he was with a tour guide, and they said, just wait, let the rest of the people go through, and let's stay back a moment. And if you stay back a little bit in that stretch room, which it's hard to do because they're always kind of trying to get you through there. But if you have a chance to sort of hold back a little bit, you actually will hear spectral voices swooshing around you. And I've yet to hear them, but I do know that they are there. So just to give you a little heads up on that. So something that is really neat, of course, is the grim grinning ghost song. And the organ player actually in the ballroom is actually playing that song off key. If you listen very carefully, and the whole um, narrative had to match the tone of the song. So it took two very, very creative talents to do that. A person named Buddy Baker did the actual music score. He was a staff composer for the Walt Disney Company for 28 years, and he actually did some of the music for Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and that kind of thing. But he was a staff composer during the year, and his colleague, Xavier Antencio, he was actually an animator for 27 years, and Walt invited him to actually write the song. And it took him by surprise because he was an animator, he's an artist. He wasn't a script writer, for music, for the actual, the script had to match the different sections that you would go on in the ride. And to this day, he always thought it was very strange, but also recognized that Walt had this uncanny ability to see the talent in people before they even knew they had it. And a prime example of that also was with the Sherman brothers, Robert and Richard Sherman, who did the music for Bedknobs and Broomsticks and Mary Poppins and a lot of other music for the Disney company. And they were rock and roll artists. They were musicians for rock and roll. And yet Walt saw something in them, and haltered that creative talent to put to the great use in his theme park and that. But anyways, I want to welcome Frank. Thank you, Frank, for joining me tonight. And just to let you know, you can listen to the playback in a moment. I do want to share with you too that it's hard to believe. And I know Walt has always said, just remember everything started with a mouse. Well, it was actually the month of October in 1923, which is a heck of a long time ago, that Robert, Roy and Walt actually started their animation studio. And you think about, my gosh, what little they had to work with. Very, little technology, supplies, things of that nature, and what they created out of that beginning of that studio, which I think is absolutely amazing. So that happened on October 16th in 1923. So I just wanted to let you know. Frank's just saying hello to me, and he's trying to remember the name of the organist. And I can't remember, but I do know that the first concept art of the organist kind of looked like a ghost spectral of Liberace, actually. And then they changed that a bit. Something else that I wanted to tell you about quickly. In the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland, there's actually a hole in sort of in the mirrored section where the ballroom is, and one of the pistols actually had fired into that. And right now, with the overlay on, with the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay, if you're going by there and you see this big spider web, you'll see a spider, and that marks the spot where the hole was, from the pistol shot. But and another thing that I learned about that particular scene is that those are actually real figures, and there's a mirrored kind of reflection. I guess in the illusion world, it's called Pepper's Ghost, and it's an illusion of making these figures look ghost-like. And it's quite technical, and I'm not even going to try to explain that. But it's really quite fascinating, and the work that was involved with that, and particularly, the Grim Grinning Ghost song can be heard throughout every little section, and it changes. Not the words change, but the different parts of the song change according to the narrative in the Haunted Mansion. And I think it's just fascinating how they worked it out. I'm so glad that it didn't become a walk-through museum, because I think what they have done is just brilliant, and I can't wait to go on that attraction again. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight and listening in. And I look forward to seeing you guys all next week. So I just want to wish you all a happy Halloween, and wherever you are in the world. And just Stan mentioned he does a Pepper's Ghost effect on his Halloween display in his front window. So I'm gonna have to check that out, Stan. I'll go on Facebook and check that out. But thank you all again for tuning in from wherever you are, and thanks to my guest Jay. for joining me tonight. So for now, you guys take care, be safe, be well. Until next week, bye for now.